Right, welcome back to the Anarchy Garage, and I officially think I have lost my mind with this. So welcome to the Corsa B, and the reason we have bought a Corsa B is we're going to stitch this thing back together and we're going to build it at the Max Power reunion show this year. So we're going to try and drag it home now, we're going to get it back with us and see what it needs. We're going to weld it up and then we're going to take it there as a pretty standard car and try and convert it over the weekend period.
Yeah, you just feel like, what have I done?
So our course comes with a lovely selection of parts as well, so we're going to fill it up and yeah, try and rebuild it when we get back home. Ta-da! Right, so apparently this fine specimen does actually run as well, so we're going to hear this monster 1 litre 12 valve run for the first time as well. What a specimen. Oh, that's really close. Look at her, the power. Excellent. Last car I loaded onto this beautiful trailer, lent to us by Morgan Bailey, was a stunning Camaro, and now I feel that we've gone up in the world, gone for one lady owner, beautiful olive green Corsa. I'll help you. Are they all in the back?
The hell, we just knocked off it. Destroying it already.
Bet that goes in the video now. The Corsa is all picked up, and I would definitely say it is way worse than I originally thought it was, but this is also the first time I've seen it. But at home, try and find a Corsa B now. It's ridiculous. Yeah, the prices they're fetching are stupid, but this is now going to have a once over. It's going to be welded up, it's going to be fully checked over, and we're going to get an MOT on it. So whatever needs doing, it will be done. Then it's going to come back and I'm going to do some more fabrication on it before we actually go to the Max Power show. Now, the main thing that we're going to need for this build to kind of fit in with that Max Power era of cars is, of course, a body kit. So this is our Kingdom 2 body kit. So this was all of the rage when the Max Power scene was at its height. And to be fair, I'm so excited about this body kit because this bumper was the one that I always wanted when I was around that era. So we've got all of the arches, we've got a rear boot spoiler, we've got front and rear bumpers, side skirts, smooth off panel, and even a bad boy bonnet to finish the package. So what I'm going to be doing today is actually preparing a few of these panels. Now, as I say, we're going to be fitting them at the show, we're going to be doing all the work there. However, there's a couple of items that are going to take a big load of time just to dry. So what I'm going to do is prepare the arches, side skirts and bumpers so they'll actually be ready to fit onto the car. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with the wheel arches. Now, these kits are notoriously really hard to fit, and the reason being is these are a single skin. All of these molds are all single skin when they come out. So what you've got to do is actually put yourself some structure in the back of them and also some fixing points to stiffen them up and also to fix them onto the car as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scuff these up on the back. I'm going to fiberglass some M8 and M10 bolts, whatever I've got in the garage, onto the back of them in a nice uniform manner. Now when it comes to putting them on the car, if I need to move them, if I need to chop them off, that's absolutely fine. What I will say about these kits is there's no right and wrong way on how to fit them. And the reason I say that is because they are a single skin, everybody's got a different approach on this. There is no right and wrong, and that's what I love about this Max Power era of cars, because it allowed you to be imaginative. It allowed people to smooth them on. It allowed people to fix them how they wanted to fix them. And because of that, that's why every single Max Power era car is all different. Right, so these marks, these are just to actually give me a key with the fiberglass. So I'll drop the bolts onto here. We'll just drop the fiberglass on. But this enables the next layer of fiberglass to bite into the previous layer. What I do find amazing about this body kit as well is these kits are kind of 20 years old now. Or that's when they were in fashion. So there's a good chance that this body kit is one of the original 20-year-old Kingdom kits, which is just absolutely mega. What you'll find as well is there's a lot of these kits hanging around, and the reason again is because they're really hard to fit. A lot of people bought them with the hopes and dreams, but body shops never really wanted to take these on and still are very reluctant today. Garages don't want to take these things on, again, because they're so low and they're so out there, and they're also so fragile that there's a lot to go wrong. There's a lot of risk for a business. So if you can get stuck into one of these yourself, that is the way to do it, and just learn as you go. So fiberglass in time. Now, fiberglass comes in a kind of three parts. So first of all, you've got the fibers. Then we have the resin and the hardener. Now the kit I'm going to use is 2% hardener, 98% resin. I'm going to lay the glass on top of the bolts. Then I'm just going to pour this finished mixture on top, and that will give me the products. Now, if you haven't used this before, it's really messy. And what you want to do is do it as clean as you can and precise as you can, because once it's dried, it is rock hard and it will take you hours of sanding. So getting the preparation right first before you mix it is the key to this. So what we're going to do is lay the bolts out nice and neatly. I may even use a tiny bit of either glue or even a little bit of masking tape to hold the bolts upright, and then I'll set the fiberglass over the top before I pour anything on. Right, that's it. So what I've done, I've cut little rectangles of the matting out, and then I've pushed the bolts through. I've used a little dot of tiger seal on the back of each bolt just to hold the bolts upright while the resin actually sets on these. So you can see that's all ready to pour now. Now, as I said before, I do love this era of car, and the reason being is every single car is so unique. And this is my way of putting a body kit on, but in the comments below, make sure you tell me how you put yours on. It might be a better way, but this I've always found the simplest, and there's also other styles of doing it. So some cars you'll see which have got massively smoothed in body kits, which I love the look of. And that again, it gives that creativity to smooth all the panels off and go a little bit further into the modifying. However, because we're going to be doing this literally at the Max Power show, we're not going to have time to smooth it in. So I have to really get in depth with things like this. So what I'm going to start doing now is pour in some resin. So that's all of the bolts fiberglassed on. Now I'm going to let that go good and hard. It'll probably dry in about 4 hours and it'll be usable, but What I'm going to do is let it go completely rock hard overnight. So for now, I'm going to slide on over and start looking at the side skirts. Right, so I have now moved on to the side skirts. Now the side skirts, I'm going to do a very similar thing with. I'm going to put 3 bolts along here, and that is going to mount them onto the rear quarter. So this will be a passenger side, and this panel goes with the rear quarter. The car is away from MOT at the moment. It's getting repaired, which is the right place for it because we want it absolutely 100% with a ticket on it before we put this body kit on. But what I need the car back for is this bottom lip. So the bottom lip, I'm going to have to put some brackets on, or I'm going to see whether it'll be a simple hole drill through here and just rivet them on. So there needs to be a little bit of measuring. But what I can do now, as I say, is put these 3 bolts across the back. So let's crack on. Right, so here it is. This is the whole piece that made me get excited about doing this project in conjunction with Max Power Reunion. This is a Kingdom 2 front bumper. Now the Kingdom 1 we tended to find on a Vauxhall Nova, and that is really the car that I wanted. That was the poster car for me. And when I saw this come up, I just had to have it. I had to have a piece of this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some structure behind the bumper. It's going to be a metal structure. I've got some box section to do this. I'm going to start to build a bit of a frame to hang this on. Again, because this is a single skin bumper, it's very hard to mount. If I put a bit of metal structure behind here, I'll be able to weld it and build some brackets and stuff so I can kind of start to dummy the car up. Okay, so this is the bar that I'm going to use to actually strengthen behind this. Now this is just over an inch square box, and what I've done is I've done a cut which goes through so I'm able to bend the ends. Now me being able to bend those ends, they will then shape around the bumper so I can get a closer fit for me to fiberglass it on. As well, if that isn't curved, I'll just do a few more cuts and keep bending it round. What I may do as well is just put a blob of weld over when I've actually got the shape perfect. Again, it's just all adding strength. So when it's fiberglassed on, it's got a really strong metal structure behind it. This is actually the trick and the key to these body kits that everybody gets a little bit stumped on. It's all exciting when you look at it, but when you see a bare skin that you've got nothing to bolt onto, this is where it gets complicated. But just by adding some really simple structure like this and glassing it on, you can then weld to it, you can bolt to it, you can add brackets to it and actually make it into what you need it to be. What I'm now looking at doing is these poles that I cut off the end, I'm going to mount these so they'll come straight back out. Now I don't know if these are in the right position. However, if I get these on there now, this will help me when it's all fiberglass together. I can cut these down, measure them, tweak them, build brackets from them, and actually mount this bumper on the front of the car more easily. I don't want to be welding this once it's fiberglassed in, so getting this done now is just a nice simple way of adding some structure on. So that is now my front bumper frame all finished. Ah, that's hot. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is get the bumper with my other fiberglass bits, drop my frame into it, and then I'm going to absolutely cover this in fiberglass, and I mean cover it. This is going to have numerous layers all over the top of it, and I'm going to keep pouring resin over and over this. Because this is the main support structure, this is what's going to hold it up and in place. Now the other tricky thing, but I'm not quite there yet because this is going to be even trickier, is each corner or each end of the bumper is also going to have a bolt actually fiberglassing on the end. That'll mean that the corners tuck in where they should do as well, and then I'll create a bracket behind to bolt those two. Play with this. Now here is my little tech tip trick thing. What I'm going to do is use household raw plugs, and I'm going to fiberglass these all the way around the intake ports where the mesh would hang from. With these Max Power cars, a lot of them you will see the mesh broken down on the back as well. It's a very overlooked part, and everybody tends to paint them before they've thought about the mesh and then go, oh my god, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to use household raw plugs, and I'm actually just going to join them all the way around the edge so I've got something to screw onto at the end. If you've got a better idea, please let us know. Put it in the comments below, because there's so many different ways of doing these cars, and let's be honest, there's no rule book. Right, so that is all the glasswork done for the front bumper for now. So I've got all my structure in, I've got all the little raw plugs all the way around the edge as well. So when it actually is ready to, I can mount the mesh on the back. Now what I'm going to do is move on to the rear bumper. Now the rear bumper is going to be very similar to this. It's going to have a very basic framework behind it. Again, I'm going to glass the metalwork onto it, so when the car comes back, I can actually mount the two together. I've got something to weld to and something to actually fabricate against. Now, what I've done, because there is such a curve on this rear bumper, I've done markers all the way along my square tubing at 5-inch intervals. So I'm going to cut through all the way. I'll be able to bend it all the way around so it'll give the smoothest possible shape. Once I've got the shape right, then I will pull it off and I will tack weld it all in so it's a perfectly shaped piece to the rear bumper. And then I'll be able to put my outriggers on the same as I did with the front. Right, so that's the main frame, fiberglass the back of the rear bumper as well. It's a bit of a guesswork for me at the moment with not having a car here. I've done the same as I've done on the front, and I've put the raw plugs all the way around the vents. I've put this in the most central position in the hope that when it's cut down it'll give me something to weld against or something to fabricate against to actually build the rest of it up. Very slight difference on the rear just from looking at the body kit is the edges. So the edges look like they actually duck behind the rear wheel arches. So I may be able with those actually on the day to just drill a hole and put some kind of tapper into it or some kind of fixing that goes straight to the body. Until we're a little bit further ahead, I don't know with that. But for now, that is left to dry along with the front bumper and the arches. So yeah, very good for one day's work. It's been about 6 hours I've had on this now, so time consuming obviously if you're going into a body shop, because it's been full focus on this and nothing else, building all framework. It's you have to be a bit of a jack of all trades with putting one of these kits on, but it is really taking shape. This is now going to be quite strong with obviously all of the framework in it. But yeah, next step will be getting the Corsa back, because then I can kind of eye everything up and work out where I need and what fixings I need to build or get ready for the Max Power show.
Right, so as you can see, we're on the road again. We've just had a quick call from the MOT guys. They've been checking over the course, obviously getting it ready for Max Power for us. And they've said that the rear axle's got a bit of damage, and we were like, okay, fair enough. But also it's been held on by filler and foam, so not very safe there. So we're going to go and try and sort that today.
Yeah, so Adam, who we actually got the Corsa from, he's been very apologetic. He didn't know anything about this, but he's also said, because he has another Corsa there which he's going to be breaking up, he said we can go and get the axle off it, which is really cool. He's also said as well we can actually take the bonnet off it, because we need actually the frame and the structure from underneath the bonnet to put our bad boy bonnet on top, but we'll show you that later on the video how we're going to make that.
In amongst the field of BMs. All kinds of stuff here. Oh, I need to lose weight. Go on, look at her. This is going to be fun getting the rear axle off here. It's got an easy access point because all the boots rusted away. Let the fun commence.
Right, so there you go. Bonnet off, rear axle off. This one doesn't look great either, but it's definitely better than the one that we've just taken off, or the guys at the MOT station have just taken off. So load it into the Nash, get it back to those guys and they can crack on.
While we're actually changing the axle, we're going to put these coilovers onto the car. We're going to do all the way round so everything's brand new under there. So not only is it a little bit safer, but also when we get to the Max Power Show where we're actually doing the majority of the build, then we can actually wind these down and give it some lows on the day. Right, so on to the bonnets. Now this is one of those really cool bits of the car. The bonnet for this is a real radical out there thing for the Corsa B. But bonnets in general on this era of cars. Now you may have heard the term bad boy bonnet, and that refers to when people kind of put an eyebrow across the top of the lights. In the 90s, early 2000s, the lights were kind of very bubbly, very round, and to make them have that mean aggressive look, what people did is they welded pieces of metal across the front of them, or in this case in fiberglass, and it gave it that tough look. What we're going to be doing on this fiberglass bonnet, this already has those bad boy eyebrows actually molded in, which is really cool. But we're going to be doing the hinges. Now the hinges themselves, because this is a fiberglass skin, you can't just bolt into them, it just pulls straight back out. So what you need to do is fiberglass some nuts or washers or bolts or something so it can bite into the corners. However, the way I want to do it is I'm going to knock the hinge plates out of this steel bonnet we had donated by Adam. So we'll knock those out, I'm going to cut the whole recess out, put them in and then fiberglass over them. That gives it more surface area, so in my eyes this reduces them actually pulling back out of the fiberglass that you've laid on it. It's a bit trickier to do and it's a bit more in depth, but the result for me, it's a lot tougher at the end. Okay, so I've now chopped the latch out of the steel bonnet. I've also removed a bit of the tension off the spring as well. I did that by taking it apart. I've just cut one coil off it and put it all back together. When we actually close the bonnet for the first time though, we'll have to gauge whether it's right or not, and I may have to actually take it apart again and cut another coil off. But for now, I know there's less tension on it and it should be fine. What I'm going to do is place this on here. I'll then cut a hole out in the fiberglass exactly the same as I did with the hinges, drop that in and that'll get fiberglassed in at the exact same time. Right, so the Corsa is back. This is the first time it's actually been in the garage with myself. The reason being is Morgan Bailey has been looking after the car for us and he's done a wonderful job of getting this car to where it needs to be. So it has now passed its MOT. I've removed the rear bumper again because this is where I'm going to be working tonight. He's also been through all the suspension on it, he's been through the lights and kind of got rid of all of those little jobs that I haven't had time to do because the Max Power Show is creeping up on us quicker than I can believe. But what I'm going to be doing tonight is smoothed off boot lid on the back. Now, a smoothed off boot lid on these is just such an iconic thing to do and we cannot take this car to the show without one. We also can't weld at the show, so this is going to be one of those little things that I've got to do before we leave. And the reason we do that is it gives it a sleeker look, and I don't know why people aren't doing this with modern cars because it changes the car completely. It gives you something so unique for, in my eyes, so little work. So what I'm going to do is weld this recess up across the back, weld the lock up and also the rear wiper, and then I'll be able to start smoothing it off, put a bit of fill around the edge and rework it. And it really does change the look of the back of one of these cars. So let's get stuck in. So I'm just going to linish them around the edges, take the badges off as well, and then I can get stuck in with actually getting some metal onto it. Right, so that is the boot lid plates welded in. I'm going to do one more, which is going to go just underneath the bottom as well. But what I'm going to do first is actually linish all of these welds off when it's cooled down. I have said this earlier in here, I am not a panel beater. This is not an example of how you should do it. You probably should have taken a little bit more time, not rushed through it, kept it cool, and tried not to warp the boot lid. I just hammered the heat in it because I'm running out of time, ready for the Max Power show. So I've probably not done this the neatest way, and I'm sure if you went to a body shop, they'd do it much better than me. But what this is to prove is you can do this at home. You can muddle along and get things to work. That's what I've kind of done with a lot of this bodywork on this car. It's a bit of a learning curve for me to actually get this involved with bodywork, and especially with this time restriction we've got, we're getting the car there. So that's it for now for the Gumball Max Power Corsa build. The next time you see this car, it will be on the next episode with it, which is going to be filmed live at the Max Power reunion. The car will go away first though to Chris. He's going to actually prime the boot lid and also get a fresh coat of primer on all of the body kit and also sand out any imperfections for us. But for now, that is pretty much it. That is as far as the car will go. Make sure you tune into the next episode. But for now, thanks for watching the Anarchy Garage.